Welcome back to Sophie Ridge, The Take. Now, a couple of weeks ago, Sky's Deputy Political Editor Sam Coates presented us with some polling data gauging public feeling about some of the issues related to coronavirus. And Sam's been going through some more data, and I'm pleased to say he's back with us today with a series of survey results comparing the feelings among Britons with people from other big economies around the world. Some really interesting data here to talk you through. So let's look at this one first, shall we? The question here, in the last 7 days, have you had symptoms of coronavirus? You can see there the percentage with symptoms. Sweden is the highest on 17%, followed by France on 13%. 12% of people in the UK say that they have had symptoms of coronavirus in the last 7 days, compared to 11% in the US, on Australia, and Germany on 10%. Let's bring in Sam, shall we? So, the UK really in the middle there, I guess, when it comes to how many people feel that they've had symptoms of coronavirus.
Absolutely. Well, Sophie, this is data collected by YouGov in association with Imperial College, basically to help the global study of coronavirus. And what this question does, and it's worth noting that a number of countries were surveyed, about 1,000 people in each country between the 1st and 7th of April. It shows that really in many developed countries, the number of people showing symptoms is bunched around the same level, except for Sweden. Now, I'm sure many of you are aware, Sweden have decided to adopt different rules on the lockdown. It's a voluntary lockdown, not a compulsory lockdown. And look at that, 17% of people showing feelings compared to a sort of developed world average of around about 10%. So Sweden looking like an outlier. Other countries, around about a week ago, very much all in the same ballpark.
Sure that there will be a real inquisition about whether the Swedish reaction was the right one later on as well. Let's bring in the next graphic now, shall we, Sam, that we can talk you through now. Now, this question here is saying, how willing would you be to self-isolate if you were told to by the authorities? Now, all of these figures are pretty high, but you can see right there at the top is the United Kingdom. 95% of people saying that they would be willing to self-isolate if they were told to. So gold star there really for people in the UK. 90% in Australia, 89% in China, 86% in the US, 82% in Germany. So the UK more willing than the Germans to self-isolate if necessary. And India there on 77%. Let's bring back Sam, shall we? I mean, the government will be quite encouraged by these findings.
Yes, this is the evidence that backs up the government assertion that actually Britons are doing more when it comes to staying at home, self-isolating, that even they expected people willing to obey the rules, it would appear, and expressing a confidence in the authorities in doing that. And I think that this will be the fact that the British believe in the instructions given by the state more than even in America, and certainly in Germany, which I think will raise quite a lot of eyebrows, is quite a striking figure. The British faith in the government, for good or ill, seems extremely high at this moment. That will be a relief to the government.
And certainly a relief when they're trying to flatten that curve, bring those very grim death figures down. A bit of a ray of hope there, I guess. Let's bring in the next statistic, shall we? Let's have a look at the next data point here. Now, this is asking people, how many times did you leave your home yesterday? And of course, a very key measure about whether or not people are listening to the government's advice that you should stay at home where necessary. In Spain, where they've got a very strict lockdown, they are leaving their home the least, just 0.56%. The UK, though, 0.77%. I mean, so that is less than 1. The US, 0.9%. Australia, just over 1 there. China, 1.5. Germany, 1.59. And Sweden, whereas Sam was explaining before, they have different rules when it comes to social distancing, 1.74. So clearly the highest there in Sweden. Let's bring back Sam, shall we? So people are leaving their house less than once a day. It really does feel as if in the UK people are listening to the government's advice.
It does, and in one of the slightly less known moments of the press conferences last week, the government scientists admitted that actually community the transmission, which is jargon essentially for the amount that it's being spread in the community, is now on the decline. The so-called the rate at which it's going is less than 1, which means that actually in communities coronavirus is not spreading and the rate is going down. And we are the second country. We seem to be the second most impressive country to adhere to the rules after Spain. Spain, of course, you're not even allowed to leave the house for physical exercise. That is allowed in the UK. It would appear that some people in Britain don't even take up that opportunity. But again, I think that the authorities, I think number 10, will find this data heartening. They'll be watching this over the days and weeks to come to see whether this number changes. We've seen every day the number of people that are driving in their cars and going on public transport released by number 10 in those daily press conferences. But this suggests that the level of compliance, again, is much higher than was expected.
Even higher than in countries such as, Germany, China, the US. Really interesting data. Let's just look at the final piece of data, then we'll come straight back to Sam for the analysis. Now, this is one that perhaps is going to be slightly more concerning than some of the more positive ones that we've been looking at. The question here, have you personally been tested for coronavirus in the last 7 days? Australia, there 8% of people say they have. China, 7%, and then it starts dropping. 5% in the US, 2% in Germany, 2% in France, 1% in the UK. Let's bring Sam in. Is this a concern?
I think it will be for many people. Now, this data is from just over a week ago, in large part, before and around the time that Matt Hancock set his 100,000 target. Nevertheless, the fact that other countries appear to be doing so much better than the UK will strike a chord. I think there are going to be questions in this week's press conferences about the level of testing. Sky News revealed yesterday that the capacity on testing still is nowhere near what's necessary. That National Coronavirus Testing Centre in Milton Keynes only conducting 1,500 tests a day. We're looking to get to 100,000 by the end of the month. It looks very. The question is why Britain so far behind.
Thank you so much for going through that data, Sam. Really interesting. Hope to do it with you again in future weekends too.